This morning's first scripture reading comes to us from Matthew chapter 5, verses 1 through 12. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you."
Picking up where Becky left off, we're continuing in Matthew chapter 5, beginning at verse 13. "You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light so shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth pass away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. This morning's New York Times has a column by Nicholas Kristof in the Sunday Review section. Kristof writes about human rights, women's rights, health, and global affairs. Today's column, which was printed online yesterday, which is how I know about it, sports a picture of two teenage boys, wearing their cross-country jerseys. He writes, "Dateline, Yamhill, Oregon. The funeral for my high school buddy Kevin Green is Saturday near this town where we both grew up. The doctors say he died at age 54 of multiple organ failure, but in a deeper sense, he died of inequality and a lack of jobs." Kristof tells Kevin's story. He grew up on a small farm where his family lived with, if not the American dream, at least solid upward nobility. The farm was not the main source of their income. Kevin's dad had a good union job. It paid him well above the minimum wage. An ethic of hard work was the family standard. Kristof describes Kevin as sunny, cheerful, and astonishingly helpful. Any hint that something needed fixing, and he was there with a wrench. But then, he writes, the dream began to disintegrate. The local glove manufacturer closed up shop, and so did the feed store. Blue-collar jobs vanished. For a while, Kevin worked non-union jobs in construction for low pay. Then that company went under. He worked as a shift manager making trailer homes. Then about 15 years ago, Kevin hurt his back and was laid off. A cycle of disability and debt spiraled out of control. And when the state took his driver's license because he fell behind on child support payments, his younger said, His younger brother said that is what kicked him to the dirt. There's more to his life and what led to his death. Christoph closes the piece. So, Kevin Green, R.I.P., you were a good man, hardworking, and always on the lookout for someone to help. Yet you were overturned by the riptides of inequality. Those who would judge you don't have a clue. They could use a dose of your own empathy. As we come to our passage in Matthew's Gospel, which we call the Sermon on the Mount, it might be good for us to be reminded of something. If we are crowded in with all the others on the side of the mountain, listening to Jesus preach, it's good to know who's in the crowd with us. At the end of chapter 4, Matthew writes, Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, curing every disease and every sickness among the people. So his fame spread throughout all Syria, and they brought to him all the sick, those who were afflicted with various diseases and pains, demoniacs, epileptics, and paralytics. And he cured them. And great crowds followed him from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and from beyond the Jordan. Kevin Green is standing in the crowd too, as Jesus opens his mouth to say, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." I remember fairly vividly the first time I heard those words. I was in the 4th grade in my Catholic elementary school, and my first response was confusion. I certainly didn't relate to anything that was being said. I couldn't claim to be poor, in spirit or otherwise. I certainly was not meek. No one who ever knew me as a child said I was meek. I had lost my Aunt Jessie, my mother's favorite sister, when I was 4, but really it was my mother who mourned, not me. Pure in heart? I suspected not. Peacemaker? Spend an hour observing my brother and me at play. So, no to peacemaking. I couldn't relate to these words. I was in 4th grade. It was that simple. Thank God for my teacher, Mrs. Kennedy, Linda Kennedy, a remarkable and talented woman who, like Kevin, died far too young. Thank God that Mrs. Kennedy was persistent. These words, she persuaded me, were at the heart of what it meant to be a follower of Jesus. Yet when you read these blessings, they almost give offense. Blessed are the poor, or the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who are grieving. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for food or righteousness, for fairness. No, thank you. Got any other blessings today? Some years back, I was going through a particularly difficult time, and I talked with a friend whom I not only liked but also admired. And she had been through the same. She said, "Well, all I can tell you is it made me a more compassionate person." And I thought, well, I would like to learn that lesson in some other way. Thank you very much. But oh my, she was on to something there. Jesus looks out at the crowd and he sees all the Kevins, all those who have been knocked to the dirt by life. The least and the lost, the poor and the pathetic and possessed, the sick and the heartsick. And he says, well, all I can tell you is there will be a blessing in this for you, even if you can't see it right now. Around the same time, my friend gave me her words of wisdom. I was attending West Presbyterian Church in Binghamton, and the troubles I was going through affected the whole family. One day after church, I learned that the pastor had asked after us, had asked if we were all right. He had said to my then husband, "You both look so incredibly sad." I tell you, when I heard that he had said that, my eyes filled with tears. I was so grateful. It is a powerful thing to have your suffering seen and acknowledged and named, spoken out loud. It is the beginning, I would say, of healing. Jesus looks at all these people crowded on the mountainside, and he says, not only, I see you, but God sees you. And God will bring a blessing to you. And I wonder whether part of that blessing is what my wise friend said. I wonder whether part of the blessing of undergoing a period of hardship or suffering is the way it cracks our hearts open and allows us to know that others are in pain as well. I suspect my friend was right. God sees you in this and through this, Jesus says. And then in a curious turn of the tables, he tells all these crushed and crying people that in fact, there are ways they can be a blessing to the world around them. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted. Actually, in the Greek, it says hunted. Blessed are those who are hunted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. In God's paradoxical way, it is the bruised and broken who can, in fact, become powerful blessings to those around them. Not in the under my thumb, I'll have my revenge action movie definition of powerful, not, in other words, powerful in the way our society currently understands it, but powerful in spirit, powerful of heart. To show mercy, to forgive, is powerful. To be single-hearted, to pursue the calling of your heart with a purity and a clarity, that is powerful. To make peace, oh, my 8-year-old self, listen up, is powerful. To stand firm even when the people who seem to have all the power rain down their wrath upon you is powerful beyond expression, powerful beyond comprehension. Because, of course, Jesus is talking to us, but like lots of preachers, he's also talking to himself. I read somewhere this week, the Beatitudes are Jesus' self-portrait, the most personal description we have of him in the Gospels. They are the timeless image of Christ. Would we today recognize him if we saw him? Jesus is talking to himself, but of course, he is also talking to the people before him, humanity in all its beauty and brokenness. And he goes yet another step further. You, he tells them, are the salt of the earth. You, he continues, are the light of the world. Just imagine, there you are, there we are, on the mountainside, knocked to the dirt by the loss of a job or the spouse who left taking the kids. There you are groping around with some way to cope with the grim diagnosis or the loss of mobility. There you are still swooning in your grief. And Jesus says, God sees you. And here are the ways in which you are and will be blessed. And here are the ways in which you are powerful, just as you are. In fact, you are the light of the world. Just as you are, you can shine the powerful light of Christ as you reach out in forgiveness. You, just as you are the light of the world when your heart shines with purity of purpose. You, just as you are a beacon of God's hope when you choose peaceful and nonviolent ways of being in the world. When you allow your heart to be cracked open. When you allow yourself to feel empathy, to comprehend the pain of, to give one example, the Kevin Greens of the world, and to vow to use whatever power you have to make a difference in their lives. Jesus is talking to us, but of course, he is also talking about himself. Jesus is the light of the world, a light no darkness can extinguish. And we are an essential part of his Light Up the World project. Would we recognize him if we saw him today? Here is his self-portrait. Look for him, where forgiveness and peace and empathy are healing hearts and changing minds. And don't forget to shine. Shine, beloved children of God, for all you're worth. Thanks be to God. Amen.